All right, wow. What a fantastic turnout. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Frainie Field. I really appreciate all of you being out here today. My name is Mike D'Alessandro. I'm the president of the Davis Magnet School Education Foundation. And I am just super proud to be here today to dedicate this field and memorialize this awesome person, this great person, Keith Frainie. As you know, Keith Frainie. Tragically, last December 6th, just 5 months ago, we lost Keith Jason Frainie. He was playing the sport that he loved, soccer. And if you knew Keith, you know, it was his passion. Keith was a husband, a father, a great friend, a co-worker, a community leader, and a coach. And at Davis, we knew him as Coach Keith. Keith was very instrumental in coordinating and managing our Pilot Cup program here at Davis. And he brought us a lot of victories. We have another person that took over for Keith, Alex Takia. He has big shoes to fill. He's doing his best. But if you knew Keith, he was very passionate about this sport. He was selfless and served his community, serving on the board at Region 97. He served on our foundation here, helping to raise money for these kids and providing an educational experience. And really what he wanted to do most was to spread the joy of soccer around this community. I could think of no other better honor than to dedicate this field, Frainie Field, in honor of Keith Frainie. We have some very special guests here today. I want to introduce some folks. We have one of Keith's friends that flew all the way down from San Francisco. The Haywards and his parents, Roger and Rosalie, are here, along with Blake. And of course, we have Mary, Miles, and Siena. We also have one of our school board members, Michelle Bartow, here joining us today. And of course, Keith's friends and family. I mean, Keith touched all of our lives. I'm going to introduce a couple of folks that are going to say a few words. And at this point in time, I want to turn it over to our leader here at Davis. She's done just such a fantastic job, and it's been an honor to serve her as the president of her foundation. I want to introduce our principal, Christy Flores.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. At the beginning of this school year, I asked all of our teachers, what makes you most proud to be a Davis Duck? And despite high test scores, despite the high number of resources that we have or the opportunities that we provide our students, the resounding response was the community support. You being here today exemplifies that, and I want to thank all of you for your attendance today, and it is so great to see current Davis Ducks and our former Davis Ducks here to honor a great man and a great coach. On April 23rd, after receiving an overwhelming positive response from the community, the school board, the Newport Mesa Unified School Board, unanimously approved the naming of this field as Frainie Field. Michelle Bartow is here with us today, and I want to thank her for her attendance and for her support. One of the points made at that school board meeting was talking about how there are several applications that will be submitted to name buildings or fields or other locations here in our school district. And it's not that easy for it to happen. But thanks to you and the 447 responses in favor of naming Frainie Field, today and moving forward, our boys and girls will play soccer here at Frainie Field. There are a few people that I would like to thank. First of all, beginning with Mary and Miles and Siena. When I first met this family 9 years ago, Miles was in my first grade class. He's a little smaller than he is today, a little less hair too. But when I met this amazing family, one thing was obvious to me, was how much Keith loved his family. He was so proud of his kids, so proud of his wife, and I know that that same sense of pride is continuing on today. I so appreciate everything you did for our school community, and I appreciate you being here today. I'd also like to thank Jan Frainie, Keith's dad, Linda Frainie, Jan's wife. We're also joined by Marilyn and Jim Land, Mary's parents. Blake Haywood, a childhood friend, flew down from San Francisco, and his parents, Roger and Rosalie, Blake's parents, are here. And then we have Michael Brownlee here, who is a college friend of Keith's. And then finally, I'd like to thank the Arsenagas, Keith's mom's family, who is here. Would you please give a round of applause for those friends and family? Today's events were very much a collaborative effort. It's been 5 months since Keith's passing. I'd like to thank our Davis Magnet School Foundation, led by Mike D'Alessandro. This was their brainchild to name this field and to honor him in this wonderful way. Mike D'Alessandro has been a wonderful leader who I so appreciate working with. And he also, I see very similar characteristics in Mike as I did in Keith, having a passion to support his kids, his family, and his school community. So thank you, Mike, and thank you to our school foundation. Keith had a passion for helping others. He had a passion for helping kids. He had a passion for coaching. And he also had this wonderful ability to bring adults together to coach and to support kids, no matter their ability of soccer. Even though Keith will not physically be with us this upcoming Pilot Cup season or moving forward with other soccer games around our community, I am so thankful that kids today and every day moving forward will have the opportunity to play here at Frainie Field. I encourage all of us as we leave the field today to really think about how he gave back to the community, and that I hope that all of us continue to follow in his lead and give back to our kids and to help them on and off the field. Thank you again for being here today. I so appreciate it.
Hi guys. There are a lot of reasons to dedicate something to somebody. I think the obvious one is because we want to remember somebody, but in the case of this dedication, I think, and this kind of goes back to something that was mentioned earlier, that for the school board to dedicate a field to somebody, it's got to be more than just to remember somebody. They have to have done something pretty special, and they have to have added to the community. And it was really cool that the two previous speakers, I tried to come up with some words that described Keith, and most of you guys know this. If you knew Keith, you knew two words that I came up with, but the one that's been brought up several times already is passion. And Keith had a lot of passion. He was passionate about soccer, we know. He was passionate about the Dodgers, which I can't understand, but he was obviously passionate about his family. But the other word that hasn't been brought up is competitive. Yeah, I knew I'd get some of that when I said that. But you know, being competitive, and you can be too competitive and you can be too passionate. Keith was my friend that did as good a job as I've ever seen of balancing. I remember there was one time we were talking about somebody, and I was being critical. And Keith's reaction, it was like a gut core reaction was no. Like, he just, Keith, it reminded me of a quote that Will Rogers said, which is, "I never met a man I didn't like." And hanging out with Keith and getting to know him, I really felt that he lived that. And I think that that's something that's missing hugely in society today. Keith could be critical, but he never talked down about anybody. He didn't gossip. It was always it was constructive. And he caught me in a moment where I was kind of gossiping about somebody, and I was like, it hit me so hard that this is probably 2 or 3 years ago that this happened. And I was like, that's something I need to do better. That's something I need to strive for. And I think Keith did such a good job of that. And did Keith love winning? Yeah, he loved winning, but I don't think he hated losing. Like, he did it, and I've played ping pong with him. I've played pool with him. I've seen him coach soccer. Thank God I never had to coach against him. And so, yeah, he was passionate and competitive, but he never walked away. I can't say anger ever figured into it or any negative emotions. He did such a good job of balancing all of that. And so, at the school board, I spoke of Keith's volunteerism, and that got mentioned previously, and that's super important, and I hope the community learns from that, and the dedication of this field will further promote volunteerism. But I hope the people that got to know Keith, the kids that got to be coached by Keith, learned balance, which seems like it's something that just is such an important lesson nowadays. And I was standing there listening about people talk about Keith, and I'm going to leave it on this note. And it just hit me again how much I miss him. He was all the good things that I mentioned, and so fun and loving and such a good guy to hang around with. He was, there's a small group of us, and we really miss him. So just really cool for this dedication, and thank you for letting me speak. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brett. Brett was one of the community leaders that came to the district and made a presentation to help get this field approved. And I need to thank a few other folks for helping to make that happen, as well as today's event. I see them in the audience. One of them is Kirk McIntosh right there. He's big in Pilot Cup, and he's everything soccer, too. I appreciate all the stuff that you do, spreading the love of the game. Paul Hilson back there, another really good friend and competitor. And yeah, Keith definitely loved to win, and he used to work with Paul on the brackets for Pilot Cup every year so that our teams can meet in the finals. And there's many other community leaders that provided a lot of feedback. But at this point in time, I want to hear from our guest of honor. It's really just an honor to have this special person and these two amazing kids. They're going to come up and say some words, and we're actually going to cut the ribbon, and we're going to play some soccer because that's what Keith would want to do. So at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Mary Frainie, Miles, and Siena to come on up and say a few words. Big round of applause for Mary.
Hi. Thank you all for coming today. On behalf of our family, I want to thank Mike and Christy, the Costa Mesa United, AYSO 97, the Pilot Cup staff, the Davis staff, and the Newport Mesa United School District Board members for bestowing this great honor for Keith and naming this Frainie Field. Keith was motivated to volunteer as a coach, board member, referee, and Pilot Cup liaison because he loved to help. He loved to give to his community and be a positive influence on the hundreds of kids that he coached. But if someone said a kind word or showed gratitude or just said, "Thanks, coach," that always touched him deeply. Like, that's what he came home and at the end of the night, that's what he was talking about. If someone just said just something nice. So I can only imagine how grateful he would be to have this honor bestowed on him. But for him, Miles, Siena, and I say thank you. Keith loved sports. He loved watching them on TV. He loved going to live games, and it was so important for him to take Miles and Siena to see live games. He loved playing them. He loved coaching them. Keith grew up playing a lot of sports. It wasn't just soccer. He played baseball. He played basketball. Some of his friends there he played with growing up. He played golf, and he actually played competitive tennis. I don't know, most people didn't know that about Keith, but he was rated in the country as a tennis player. So he loved all of them, but soccer became his big passion, and he was actually the captain of his team in varsity for Los Altos High School. But his love of coaching really blossomed when he first coached Miles's team when Miles was 4 years old. They were running around the field like a little pack of bees. That was really where it started for him, and he coached ever since then. So he coached over 11 years. We think he probably coached about 300 children, and that just meant so much to him to be involved in all those kids' lives. So unless he was dressed up for work or some other event, Keith always wore t-shirts and shorts. The kids and I used to tease him that he had a whole wardrobe of Pilot Cup t-shirts. And so that's why we made the t-shirts, because we thought he would love it, having a t-shirt made with his name on it and had that meaning. So that's why the Frainie Field t-shirt seemed so perfect. So a couple of people talked about some elements of Keith that I thought were really important to touch on too. He was a great connector of people. He was always stopping and talking to people. On Thanksgiving, he went on a short errand and didn't come back forever. Where did he go? He was, of course, ran into one of his players and was talking to them. That's just what he did. He loved seeing people and connecting to them and really understanding what was happening in their lives. Aside from Miles and Siena, who were always his number one players, Keith loved each child he coached and their families. He aspired to guide them on the field, but in life too. And as Brett was saying, he loved to win. He would always drive his teams to do his best. But through that, we have 3 Pilot Cup championships with Miles and Siena's teams because of his drive to win. Keith was inspired by his coaching idol, who's John Wooden, the UCLA coach. He read a lot about John Wooden's philosophies and really worked to bring them into his coaching style. And I liked what was said earlier about letting Keith inspire us. I know Siena and Miles and I have Keith inspire us every day in who we are and ways that we could be more like him. So from now on, let's let Keith inspire us to connect people, to brighten someone's day with a smile, to serve through volunteering, to bring joy to others, to have passion, even if that means throwing a clipboard or two, to have fun, and to love deeply. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. And now we will actually cut a ribbon. If I can get a couple of helpers to grab these two stanchions, boys, come on over. Let's spread them around in front. And we actually have a giant pair of scissors that work. They're real. Boys, if you can slide it in front right here. Slide it in front, that would be great. Leave it to the girls to figure it out. All right, there we go. Pull it taut, all right. And with this ribbon cutting, folks, we officially open up Frainie Field. Who wants to play soccer?